Most people see Roblox as a colorful world of blocks and imagination. But for two brothers, Emmanuel and Sebastião, it became the birthplace of a real-life nightmare. On Christmas Eve, while their family celebrated downstairs, a single choice inside a bedroom changed their lives forever. It started with a gift every kid dreams of, but ended with a scene so disturbing their parents will never forget it. What could drive two inseparable brothers to commit the unthinkable over a game? Today, we're diving into a case that proved for these two, the game over screen was all too real. Within Roblox, there are several bizarre accounts. Accounts that even seem normal, but hide a terrible story behind them. Such is the case of two brothers who loved playing Roblox very much. One was named Emmanuel, and the other was named Sebastião. They had a healthy relationship as brothers, but everything ended up going down the drain because of Robux, resulting even in a fight and leaving a huge scar on one of the brothers. And this is a case that ended up becoming very famous abroad. I am here to tell it to you. So, grab your wonderful little coffee, leave a like, and subscribe to the channel, and come with me for a terrifying case between two brothers. The story begins with Sebastião and Emmanuel. They were two brothers who loved playing Roblox. They played every day in a peaceful and fun way. Sebastião was the older brother. He was 14 years old, and Emmanuel, the younger brother, was 13. The two went to school together and couldn't wait to get home to play that little Roblox. They were very calm and almost never fought. However, they used to fight when they were younger. However, there was one thing in common between the brothers. Both of them always asked their parents for money, specifically to buy Robux on Roblox, because they wanted Robux to be able to customize their avatar and buy rare items in some games. So Sebastião and Emmanuel lived imploring their parents for Robux. So since it was something both brothers wanted very much, the parents decided to gift them at Christmas, giving 2,000 Robux to each of the sons. The two brothers, of course, were very happy because it was everything they wanted. Note that there was only 1 month left until Christmas. However, during that same time, the two brothers were playing many competitive games on Roblox. These types of games enchanted the two brothers. They became extremely addicted and spent hours playing, competing with other people. They spent 2 weeks straight playing these types of games, until the brilliant idea arose to compete against each other to see who was better. And this type of competition started in a peaceful and healthy way. Sometimes Sebastião won, and other times Emmanuel won too. And at this point, there were only 2 weeks left until the most awaited day, which was Christmas. Until the moment arrived when the two brothers started taking these competitive games too seriously. In the beginning, it was something healthy and even fun. But now, whenever one of the two brothers lost in the game, they would get very angry at each other. And when one of the brothers won, he would end up making fun of the other's face, which consequently ended up making the game very toxic. In one of the matches they had, Sebastião ended up winning the match, but he ended up mocking Emmanuel's face, his younger brother. This ended up leaving Emmanuel very irritated. And that's when Emmanuel decided to push his older brother aggressively. He ended up screaming at his older brother, telling him not to bother him, but that he would agree to a revenge match, because apparently, he ended up getting frustrated for having lost to his older brother. Sebastião continued laughing at his brother's face, but decided to play again. Then, Emmanuel ended up winning the match this time. And yes, I think you already know what happened. Emmanuel started mocking Sebastião's face a lot, saying that he is a loser and that he is horrible at the game. But not content with that, Emmanuel ended up pushing Sebastião again in a very aggressive way. And before pushing, he ended up giving him a slap in the face, causing Sebastião to fall instantly, thus causing a small accident, since Sebastião ended up hurting his head badly after hitting his head on one of the pieces of furniture. And for the first time in a long time, Sebastião got very angry and decided to grab Emmanuel and hit him. Emmanuel then, after having been beaten, sat on the floor crying. And that was when Sebastião decided to spit in his face. "People, why that? It's just a game. Calm down." Sebastião spat in his face, told him never to do that again, and never to treat him that way again. However, Emmanuel did not accept the situation. He stayed on the floor crying and reflecting a bit on what had happened. And it was then that Emmanuel started planning his revenge. That said, there were only 3 days left until Christmas, and in those 3 days, Emmanuel continued playing with Sebastio in a normal way. He ended up pretending as if nothing had happened, perhaps to disguise what he was planning. His revenge, of course. Therefore then, when Emmanuel won a match, he didn't mock Sebastio's face, nor did he say a single word. But when Sebastio won a match, he mocked Emmanuel's face and continued making fun of him, calling Emmanuel useless and rotten at the game, saying that he didn't know how to play and that he was worthless. Emmanuel just stayed in silence, accumulating that hatred for his brother. But he remained quiet, just waiting for the day of his revenge. Until Christmas Eve finally arrived. The day so awaited by the two brothers was about to arrive. However, another fight happened between Sebastio and Emmanuel. Sebastio was becoming a very toxic person toward his brother, and this ended up catching the parents' attention because the two were fighting a lot over this game. The parents then were even thinking about not giving them what they wanted anymore, because the two were getting out of control. The two brothers sat down to talk with their parents in the living room, and it was then that the brothers promised never to fight again over games and other things. They said they were very sorry for having done that and for being rude. The two brothers then promised never to fight again, but they begged their parents to give them the Robux anyway. Right after that, the family began getting ready for Christmas Eve. They put on new clothes, decorated the Christmas tree, and made the whole house beautiful. Relatives also arrived at the house. They ended up placing the presents around the Christmas tree. The parents also put Emmanuel and Sebastio's presents around the tree. Time passed until it was already 11:50 p.m., with only 10 minutes left until Christmas. Sebastio and Emmanuel were very anxious to receive their gift. The two brothers, extremely anxious for the present, kept walking around the Christmas tree, and they noticed there were 2 letters, but they were wrapped. That's when they realized they were 2 Roblox cards. Those cards for you to redeem Robux on the website. Finally, the clock strikes midnight, and it was Christmas. Everyone was happy and celebrating inside the house. Then the family joined together to give gifts to each of the relatives, and that's when the parents handed over the 2 brothers' presents, giving 1 card to each brother that would give 2,000 Robux to each. And of course, immediately after, the 2 brothers went up to the bedroom to redeem the Robux right away, since they had never had Robux in their lives. The 2 were already inside the room, prepared to redeem them. But that was when Sebastio decided to go to the bathroom, since he really had to go after having eaten the Christmas dinner. So he went to the bathroom and left Emmanuel alone with the 2 Robux cards. Immediately after, it came to Emmanuel's mind. This is the time for my revenge. While Sebastio was in the bathroom, Emmanuel did the following. He took both Robux cards, using both codes for his own account, basically stealing his brother's Robux. Emmanuel's account then ended up with 4,000 Robux. Emmanuel went crazy with the amount of Robux he had in his account and started spending it like crazy. He started buying items in the Roblox catalog, items in some games, and ended up blowing the Robux on several game passes for games he used to play at the time. He spent almost everything, and only 200 Robux remained in his account. While he was doing all this, he laughed a lot. He laughed because of the sensation of getting revenge for something. He roared with laughter because he had finally gotten revenge on his brother.
Then, Sebastio finally comes out of the bathroom. Sebastio asked his brother what he was laughing about, but he said it was nothing. He had just remembered a very funny joke. And that was it. Until Sebastio goes to check his card and notices it was torn. He asked Emmanuel why it was torn like that. However, Emmanuel said he didn't know and kept laughing. Sebastio was confused and ended up suspecting Emmanuel, but he decided not to pay attention to it because he didn't believe Emmanuel was capable of doing something like that. So Sebastio decided to redeem the Robux code even though it was torn. And that's when Sebastio received an error screen, as if the Robux code had already been redeemed. Sebastio was furious, so he decided to take a look at Emmanuel's account and saw that Emmanuel had rare and very expensive items. A single item cost 2,000 Robux, and he had several of them. So right then, Sebastian realized what Emmanuel had done. Emmanuel then started laughing in Sebastian's face and said that this was revenge for everything he had done, for hitting him, for spitting in his face. Sebastian was furious and filled with rage. He couldn't control himself, and that's when he attacked Emmanuel and beat him with all his strength. This ended up leaving Emmanuel unconscious. But Sebastian was so angry that he kept hitting Emmanuel. Even so, things were bad. Sebastian was blinded by rage, and the worst happened. Emmanuel started foaming at the mouth, and that was when Sebastian stopped hitting him and realized what he was doing. It was then that he started screaming through the house, asking the whole family for help. The parents heard the screams and ran to the bedroom, and as soon as they opened the bedroom door, they saw that terrible scene. Sebastian with his hands injured from hitting his brother so much, and Emmanuel in a seizure and foaming at the mouth. The parents went into shock at this scene. The father then ran to see how Emmanuel was and saw that his head was injured. His whole face ended up wounded. And immediately they went to the hospital. But it was Christmas, so it was going to be very hard to find a doctor working at that time. But then they took Emmanuel to a clinic, and that's when Emmanuel quickly went to the emergency room. While Emmanuel was being taken in, Sebastian stayed with his parents, waiting. And that was when Sebastian ended up confessing everything that happened to his parents. He said he beat his brother because of Robux, among other things, and that he kept mocking his face every time he won in the competitive game. The parents started to cry because they couldn't believe this was happening just because of a game. The parents then, in disbelief at the situation, decided to forbid both of them from playing Roblox or any other internet game ever again.
Days passed after that, and Emmanuel still wouldn't wake up because he was in a coma. Sebastian bitterly regretted everything he did to his brother and only prayed that one day he would wake up and live his life normally as it was, and to be able to apologize, of course, for everything he had done. However, unfortunately, Emmanuel would not wake up from the coma for anything. And so, the only thing Sebastian could do was publish this story on the internet, saying that you should not fight with anyone over a simple game and that you might regret it later, since games are made for having fun and not to be taken seriously. But from the bottom of my heart, I hope everything is okay with Emmanuel. He didn't deserve that, and in the end, it was just a silly little fight between brothers. Anyway, these types of things end up happening. What can be done to avoid this type of situation is not taking the game seriously. If you have a brother and play Roblox with him or any other game, try to have as much fun as possible, entertain yourself, etc. And if by any chance your brother beats you in some game or vice versa, congratulate him. Be happy for him having beaten you. With these small actions, the relationship becomes healthier and the environment more peaceful too. But anyway, guys, what did you think of this case? I noticed that it became quite famous abroad, and if you want me to bring any story involving some Roblox account, I can bring it. You just have to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell. We'll see each other in the next video. Thanks, see ya, and bye!